All right. Now, normally we take a deep dive into a topic or skill of mindfulness, healing, and growth, but today I just want to sit with you and take it slow. Let's put down the science books and put down our journals and just breathe. Because your 20s are a strange and sometimes frustrating place to be. Hello and welcome to Torches, Yoga and Mindfulness. If you're new here, I'm Lauren and I'll be your coach. If you're curious about mindfulness, healing, and practical habits that actually work, you're in the right place. Here we focus on simple but powerful practices grounded in ancient wisdom and modern science to care for both our minds and bodies. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. So, our 20s are this time where it feels like you're supposed to be building your entire life while also somehow already knowing what that life is supposed to look like. And for some people, it seems like they just land in it. They find the right job, the right person, the right path, the right rhythm. And then there's the rest of us, just taking the next available step. I was very much in that second group. And this isn't a list of my regrets or me looking back thinking I should have done better, because ultimately I love where I am now and I am so excited for what could come next. This is just awareness, and even awareness of our past patterns can give us choice now. But before we dive in, wherever you are for a moment, just notice your breath. Nothing dramatic, no need to change it. Just feel the air moving in and out. Maybe you can feel it on your skin or in your chest. And for this moment, let this be enough. You don't have to have your life figured out, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or older. So in my 20s, I didn't really have a direction with my career. I just kept taking whatever job came next, whatever made sense on paper, or whatever was available. And I remember looking around at other people and thinking, like, how did you end up there? And what I didn't understand at the time was that it usually wasn't accidental. There was some level of consideration there, some level of awareness. And no one had really taught me to check in with myself like that, to ask, what am I actually good at? Instead of what have I been trained to do? And not just what I can tolerate, but what really fits me, what energizes me, and what would add value to my life, not just my resume, because those are two very different things. And I think a lot of us default to what's familiar, what's easy to step into. And if I could go back, I wouldn't tell myself to have it all figured out. I would just tell young Lauren to get a little more honest and more curious. And if I'm being really honest, I didn't like who I was in my early 20s. And I think that's something people don't say out loud enough. We talk a lot about confidence and self love, but not about the in between space, where you're still figuring yourself out, where parts feel unfinished, inconsistent, or uncomfortable. But the truth is, we're not supposed to be fully formed yet. If you're feeling like you're in that in between phase, that's okay. You're not behind, you're mid formation, meeting yourself in real time, and that process can be messy. It involves trying things and realizing you don't like them, making mistakes, and outgrowing versions of yourself that once made sense. And none of that means you're doing anything wrong. It really just means you are participating in your own life. So, one thing I wish I would have known that would have saved me so much time and energy is realizing that not everything needs a reaction. I spent a lot of time in my 20s feeling like I had to defend myself, explain myself, and prove something to everyone. At some point, something shifted, and I realized it's actually none of my business what other people think of me. Now, that certainly doesn't mean that it never affects me. Now, in my late 30s, it just means I can now step back from it and see that it's not mine to carry. And another thing I learned over the years is that most of the time, people's opinions of me aren't even actually about me. They're shaped by their own fears, insecurities, or limitations. And once I started seeing that, I stopped chasing the approval. There is so much more peace on the other side of that. So now, when something comes up, I just pause and ask, is this my problem? And a lot of the time, it's not. Okay, another big one for me was my relationship with my body. And I think in our 20s, there's so much pressure to look a certain way, to feel a certain way, or to somehow arrive at this place of confidence. And if I could go back, I wouldn't tell myself to love my body. That felt too far away at the time. I would just tell myself to stop fighting it. Stop treating it like something that needs to be fixed or controlled or constantly evaluated, and start simply giving it some respect. This body has carried us through everything so far. Every hard day, every transition, and every moment where we didn't think could get through. And it's still here with us. That's worth something, even if you're not in love with it yet. Looking back, I can also see that I moved through my 20s like everything was make or break. Like every decision was going to define the rest of my life. Like this job, this person, this apartment, this hobby, it's going to define the rest of my life. And that just wasn't true. Of course, there are some decisions that can impact the rest of your life, but not in the way we think they will when we are in the midst of our 20-year-old life. Jobs can always change. More likely than not, if you got a degree, come time you're in your 30s or 40s, you won't even be working in the same field as your degree and probably going to be in a position that you'd never heard of when you were in college. People are a little more impactful, but those can change too. And we can learn or heal and move on. I know now life isn't this fragile, fixed structure where one wrong move ruins everything. It shifts, adapts, and redirects. And sometimes everything has to fall apart to make space for what's next. I think something else I misunderstood back then was impermanence. I wasn't the type to cling to things, places, or even people. I knew things didn't last. I know a lot of people kind of have to learn it the other way around and learn when to let go because things are always changing and shifting. I grew up moving a lot, new towns, new schools, new friends, new bullies. So I kind of developed that mindset of why bother getting attached? Why invest too deeply if it's all going to change anyway? But that led me to stay a little disconnected and guarded. And what I didn't understand yet is that impermanence isn't a reason to detach, but actually a reason to engage more fully, to appreciate what's here while it's here. Not holding on to things forever, but in allowing ourselves to experience them while we have them. Another thing that really bugged me back then was this whole timeline business. Like, it's like there's some invisible checklist that everyone was measuring us against. And honestly, my family just chalked me up to being a loser and a failure because I wasn't following this timeline at all. I didn't go to college until later in my 20s. And honestly, it worked out better for me because I went when I actually wanted to go, not when I felt like I was supposed to. And that changed everything. I was able to enjoy it more because it was a choice, not an obligation. And that applies to so many things. You don't have to move at the pace other people expect. When I want is a perfectly valid and complete answer to all those when are you going to questions. You don't need to justify your timing. There's a couple other little nuggets I've learned over the years that aren't really that small. Like, I was in my 30s when I realized you don't have to give 100% every day. Some days 15% is honest, and that still counts, and it won't be the end of the world. Some days are just better than others. There was something else that bugged me a little bit too for a while, and that's those friendships that were our support, our lifeline, our everything at one time, but they started to fade. Maybe it was distance or just different paths. But I had to slowly learn that letting friendships fade doesn't make you a bad person. We grow, we change, and our opportunities shift. And that doesn't erase what those relationships meant when they were present. Some chapters just quietly close. And if any of my dear old friends do happen to see this, you know who you are. I still wish you the best, and I am cheering for your happiness and success. Still love you. And lastly, as much as we like to plan, life has a way of rearranging things anyway. What do they say? Tell the universe your plans and watch it laugh? Yes, have goals, but leave room for flexibility. Sometimes what unfolds for you is better than what you were trying to force. All right, to wrap all this in a neat little package, friend, let this be your takeaway. Your 20s aren't about getting it right. They're about getting real with yourself, noticing what fits, what doesn't, noticing what feels aligned and what feels forced, and letting that awareness shape your choices over time, moment by moment. Friend, do me a favor and share in the comments how old you are and where you are in your life. Maybe a nugget, maybe drop a little nugget of wisdom that you would like to pass along. I think it helps us all realize we're less alone in this than we think. Before I sign off, real quick, bring your attention to the natural rhythm of your breath for a second. In and out. Feel the rise and fall, the contraction and expansion. Notice the energy flowing through your body. As you sit in this peaceful place, let my words resonate within. You are allowed to be exactly where you are while you're becoming who you are becoming. Friend, thank you so much for sharing a piece of your day with me. Stay present, stay kind to yourself, and I will see you soon.